Hey, good morning. We're live. We get to spend some time together. What is it, about 8:30 on Thursday morning? Oh, I cannot wait to just spend a little time with you, hold space for you, for all of us, for this little mini community, whoever's able to jump on live. If you're joining me later, I'm just so glad to spend some time with you to say hello. Good morning. my I haven't talked very much yet, so my voice is cracking. Nikki, good morning, friend. What a beautiful first name to see. Hi, Julie. Hi. Good morning. So I was focusing on love. I've been focusing on doing a deep dive in love and really, really taking it in and letting it do a work. Just being free to whatever I'm studying, whatever I'm thinking. If it's in scripture, if it's just sitting in the presence of God, just my maker, yours, mine, just sitting and receiving. And I've done some deep dives. And I specifically, when I do these posts, it seems to be around 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Today is just focusing on verse 4 and 5. Love does not boast, it is not proud, and it does not dishonor others. Oh, when you hear this in wedding vows or a wedding ceremony, it's something that's like Etsy or Pinterest will often have this like poetic list of what love is and what love isn't, and it's just easy to look at it and say, yeah, that is what love is, and I love when I receive love that way. And yeah, I do feel that when I'm dishonored or when someone's being rude or boasting, like this, the bragging and the boasting, just this prideful behavior, like, yes, totally. And then if you actually pause and think, ooh, okay, that's for me. Like, I gotta slow my roll. I gotta stop and think, how am I boasting? How am I being so prideful? And inadvertently, I don't know, some of us were not inadvertently. It is just, we love to be boastful and proud of what we have and what we do. And I'm gonna get into all this in a minute. But the majority, it's like, it's easy to look at it and to think it's a beautiful list of words and phrases that connect people in these beautiful relationships. But when you actually stop and think, it's like, oh my goodness, that was so, what I just said, what I just posted, this quick retort, man, that dishonored that person. That was all me. That was all ego. That was all pride. So, I just want to hold some space for you and just see what comes up. When I do these, it's like I have a plan, but then I also just let the Holy Spirit, let God take over. He's so much better. He's so much more powerful than anything I can anticipate to share. But I also want to pause for a moment. When I woke up early this morning, I noticed that there was deep need and prayer for Ukraine. And this is not a strong suit of mine other than loving others well, but geography and war and history. But man, immediately when I saw just a little bit of what is going on, it just, it breaks my heart, just this war. The Russia, I guess there's some airstrikes and Russia is attacking Ukraine. And it just breaks my heart. But you know what it did? It said, Tara, that is why what you do is so important. How I work through you. The fact that if you're laughing, if you're crying, if you've got your makeup on, if you don't, that you are sharing a message of love. And remember a couple messages ago, it's like, what is more powerful, love or hate? And that's a choice. Because if there's conflict in our heart, then we might want to be loving. But if there's conflict in our ego, in our pride, and we're in self-protection, self-preservation mode, then hate is coming out. All the way to what we're seeing today, which is just flat out war. But I'm going to pull back for a minute and say, do you notice the war in your own heart? Do you notice the war going around in your own mind? Do you arm wrestle yourself? That you are at war with yourself? That your pride, your ego, and then this like humility and this love, and it's just nonstop kind of combating itself. All the way to with the energy, the atmosphere in our homes, because the minute we hit our foot hits the floor, when we wake up in the morning, are we choosing love or war? And then it leaves our home, right? Wherever we are, there it is. There's the conflict. Are we little conflicts walking around? And then the minute someone hits us, our pride, our arrogance, our self-protection jumps up. So we can feel, and we should stop for a moment and just weep and mourn anytime any one of our brothers or sisters this immediately are in war and in battle. This immediately reminded me when I was a 5th grade teacher and I had a new student smack dab in the middle of the year. And I believe, and I can't remember where the Ukraine she was from, but she just had my heart. She was in an orphanage and in the Ukraine. And this family in this area had just adopted her. And just seeing somebody from across the world that is flesh, that is blood, that is a human, that has had totally different experiences than I have as an adult woman, and then looking at this 10-year-old. And then she just transformed my heart as she just, was learning the language and just interacting with me and learning our culture and our ways. And again, she was in an orphanage. And so that in and of itself is a change. And so all I'm saying for a moment is it just brought me into this relationship with people there. Just remembering there are human beings. And I know that, but when we're stuck in our own world, I don't even want to say stuck. That's like a negative thing. When we're just doing our lives, we're just waking up and moving on with the day and just thinking about what kind of day we want. You all know if you've, kind of paid attention to what's going on in my life, how my health is. And it can very much be self-absorbing, and not in a horrible way, but just in a, hey, like a lot of my life is about me. I'm paying attention to me. I'm looking inward. So I'm bouncing around a little bit just to kind of get started with us to say, my heart is, and rightfully so, just pausing for a moment and thinking about the humanness. And you know what? The humanness for the Ukraine people, but also for people in Russia and leaders. And I want to pray over Putin. I want to believe that our God is so powerful and so mighty that our prayers will change the atmosphere. And can you imagine if a lot of people chose love and not fear and hate, and just stopped for a minute and thought love is more powerful if we choose for it to be, and how we can, my mind is going like how we can eradicate war, and how we can, from this place where we sit, we can make a difference in the lives of people we've never met by stopping and praying and believing that our faith is that powerful. Come on. Not some passive faith that's like, good, man, I'm going to heaven, I'm good. No, that is not. It's not about bringing people to heaven or me going to heaven. It's about bringing heaven here on earth, and that is through love. So that, bringing it all back to why I even do what I do, it's because you are heaven. Are you choosing love so that heaven can just shine through you? Or are we just so engrossed in the war that's going on within us and we're so focused on that. And then we're attracted to the war in our city. We're attracted to the war going on in the school systems. We're attracted to, we're like laser focused and in fear over the war that's, overseas. Listen, y'all, we can choose abundance. We can choose the heavenly realm that like eradicates war and conflict, and it starts here. So that's why I do what I do when I have the energy and I have the unction to get on here and to do what I do when you don't see it, is because I want to eradicate war. How bold is that statement? And the way to do that is to start here. It starts here. So, coming back specifically for this video is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, what is love? And it is not just a pretty thing that is said in at weddings or this pretty poetic statement that may or may not be attached to God, who is love. It's just this great thing on Etsy or whatever, and you can put this in your home and say, like, this is what love is. It's patient and it's kind. And here's what it's not. It's not boastful. It's not arrogant or prideful. And it doesn't dishonor others. So let's chat. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Laura. Yes, within our own hearts. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Kathy. Different Kathy. Yes. Hi, Laura. Angeline. Hi, friend. Oh, this is wonderful. So good to see everybody. Okay, let me pause for a minute. So this is forget my chicken scratch, but this is my structure that I created. So if you want to see what my journal entry and what my brain was thinking about what I'm about to talk about, I can't believe it, but I actually went on my website and I updated, I made this free, just take it. So if you go on to abundantlymee.org, and I don't know what it's like on the phone compared to the computer, but if you scroll down and you'll see the I think I titled it like increased humility. It's a humility chart, basically, is what I ultimately named it, as a humility chart. Just scroll down to the bottom, and I would love to email this to you. I made it automated so that you could just have it. You don't have to ask me and wait for me. So if you go to abundantlymee.org, this chart that I'm reading from, that I felt inspired after I was just doing a deep dive and really paying attention and journaling a lot. This is my, my messy journal. And then I actually turned it into like a chart that maybe I and someone else can benefit from. So if you want to do that now, sweet, turn it off, come back. And if you want to do it later, that's not a problem. I'm going to put my glasses on because I can't see my own typing. So the way that I looked at love does not boast, it's not prideful, it doesn't dishonor others. When I first started looking at this a couple weeks ago, and I thought I would jump right on and share with you what came to my mind, I actually went around and I said, what does it look like? What are other people who are like good at pulling this information together to help get my mind focused? And I came across this site, but I looked it up this morning and I couldn't find it, but I swear it was something like penguin, lesspenguiny.com. Anyway, this guy, I don't know anything about him. I don't know if it's a good site or whatever, but this one post, it was hilarious. It was eye-opening, and it showed all the different ways that we as humans can boast. And some of it just made me laugh, and then it made me think, oh, look how easy it is to brag. Look how easy it is to boast. And it's like, I didn't even know that. Look how, and so ultimately, it's all about our motivation. And if you hear my dog, my pup, he's sleeping by my heater, so you might hear snoring. So hi, Sue. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Colleen. So I went on this lesspenguiny.com or whatever, and if I just Googled just something about bragging, what are the top 10 ways people would brag, or something about bragging. I can't even remember because it was 2 weeks ago. But then I found this site, lesspenguiny.com, and he did a deep dive in the world of bragging and boasting and how all these different ways that he researched and he paid attention to, and they were awesome. So I was actually going to almost comically share some of those, but as my life has gone on and I'm now here, I feel like that's the lesser of the important message. But I invite you to take a look. I really do invite you to hold space for yourself to say, I do want to be more loving. What is my motivation when I share, when I speak? And in this 1 Corinthians chapter 13, when it says love does not boast, boasting are the words, it's what's coming from us. And so if I think before I show up in the world, this is what we talk about in my Abundance Academy. It's like before I show up in the world and before I respond, what is my motivation? Who am I? Who's talking right now? Who's showing up in the conversation? So it allows us to be much more conscious, like conscientious, awake, alert, self-aware. That is what I care deeply about. Are we awakened to what we're doing, how we're responding? And so kind of looking around at different ways of boasting gives us a way of saying, oh my, when I do posts like that on social media, that isn't honoring to others, that dishonors. It's not human. It dehumanizes the other person. This has just been awesome for me. And so I hope how I convey this message, it encourages you to carve out some time to think about when you show up in the world, either via social media, or you show up in the community, or you respond to somebody, or in business, am I coming from a me perspective, imparting me onto you, or am I coming from, I'm here to help the world be a better place. I want to exude love. I want to consider the other person. What is my motivation? Am I always my own motivation? My world, my ways, my feelings, my emotions, and I'm going to let everyone know about that? Or is it you? How are you? How can I bless you? How can I make your day better? And that could be in like phenomenal business strategy. That could be in, self-care so that I can take care of others. So it's just about motivation. What is the motivation in our heart? So then that goes back to the conflict. If I have conflict in my own heart, and that's why I made this chart, because it's like a 0 to 10 chart. So a 0 is like pure false humility, feels so inadequate, so lowly. Forget pride. I am not about pride at all. I am so fearful of what other people think. I've got so much conflict of my worth in my own heart that I hide. I don't even want to be on social media. I am afraid of my own shadow kind of a thing. All the way to on the other end of the scale. And if you don't know, this is on my website if you want to get it. And so a 10 is like narcissism. It's so much about me. I can't even take in the other person's needs. I don't even focus. I'm so not present. And it doesn't mean because they're only excessively confident. It actually can mean that there's so much lack of worth that it comes out as excessive confidence, so much arrogance, all the way to a 10, which is this narcissistic. I heard this statement the other day, I was reading I was reading a book, one of many, and it redefined narcissism, or added on to the definition of narcissism, is someone who cannot process shame. So if somebody shares a truth, no, I feel such shame, and there's so much self-preservation. So that could be pride and arrogance, which is that character, which is the depth of my being. So I just started processing when I was thinking of what love isn't. Look at humility. In my mind, look how narrow of a walk that is. I could not find it on the website. Oh, bummer. Hopefully it's on there accurately. Thank you, Laura, for telling me that. I just put it on last night and fixed it this morning. So basically, you're not looking for this chart. You're going to go down and put your name and email so I can automatically email it to you. So it's a form you have to fill out, just your name and your email, so that you get this document. So then it emails to you. You won't see this actual, and it's a chart that says something about humility and increased love. So hopefully you can see that. But the idea when I was thinking about, I'll get refocused here. So I'm going to share this with you just so that I can stay focused. But again, this is, yay, good. Thank you, Dawn. Thanks for checking it out. So, and you're welcome. I'm so glad to share it. This is just my thinking. I'm not an expert. I'm just a middle-aged woman who loves to love and who loves and actually is eager to learn how to be a better person, learn how to truly the conflict in my own heart. If I don't receive love from a divine source, not from you, not from my hubby, not even from my amazing little pup Jagger down here, my or my children's successes, like there's no accolades, there's no title that I could have that will give me the love and the enoughness that in my own quiet, when it's quiet, am I secure and whole in who I am? And I'm telling you, I don't know how people go around. Any one human being, I don't care the success, I don't care any of their status. If you're quiet and you're on your own in your own time and you can just feel this conflict, the only way to truly receive a right sizing and a download of enoughness is from a source greater than this world. I'm telling you, this isn't just something to do to say, hey, I'm part of this group, I'm part of this Christian club, I'm part of this, like, I'm going to heaven and you're not, and more us's and you're the me and the other. Like, come on, I don't want to sign up for that. If I sniff that out, I want no part of it. What I'm talking about is this divine heavenly love that when things are quiet, I know where I can go to receive the love that then can come through me, no matter what is going on. And so when I study 1 Corinthians 13 to get a deeper dive understanding of this perfect love, and it says it does not boast, it is not proud, and it doesn't dishonor others. I took that over time, and that's why I created this. So that, again, this is on my website, abundantlymee.org. And so that I could just say, God, search my heart. Where am I feeling conflict? Where what I put out online or when I'm with somebody, they're getting conflict. They're not getting love. So I'm going to get to the point, and then I just would love to hear if you guys ended up, pulling this up on your computer while we're talking, or if you're just receiving. I would love to hear from you while we're, holding space. This is our community. This is a little community moment. I'd love to hear from you what's on your heart. I do lives because it's a lot easier for me, but I want to know, Diane and Dawn, I want to know what's on your mind. What, if you don't mind, some people don't share it here, they share it offline, but I do love to have some conversation. If you have questions for me, I'll stop and I'll read them. I'd love to hear more. So just to get real focused, what I ended up doing is it all came down to the word humility. So love is humble. Love is humble, which means, in what I have on this 0 to 10 graph, love is about a 5. And I'm like, Tara, is it only a 5? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe there's a little bit more wiggle room, but this is the call on our lives. This narrow strip here is like, to me, the way I look at it is you got to make a choice. Because the world and the chaos of the world, it's going to make us either have false humility Or it's bye, Jennifer, have a good day. Yeah, watch later. Or it's going to make us incredibly prideful. And this is, both of these are in self-protection or self-promotion. This is self-promotion. If I feel, okay, let me just, again, get real clear. So humility is a fine line. Humanity, humility, wholeness, abundance, enoughness. And the reason I do believe in this chart of 0 to 10, the reason I believe it's a really fine line, it's because there's chaos. There are temptations. There are people-pleasing tendencies, which is false humility. There are climbing the corporate ladder or climbing the social ladder or climbing out of a pit, if you will. And so there's all these things that pull at us and distract us and make us think about ourselves more than the other. And so it's a choice. You have to be in a state of consciousness, of awareness. You have to. No, you don't have to. Please, look at our world. Look at what's happening overseas right now. That's not a state of consciousness. That's a state of pure pride, arrogance, narcissism, pure war. I'm not thinking of anyone else. I'm thinking of myself. And then I have other little minions who think like I do. So we have this prideful, arrogant community. Think like me, act like me. We feel safe, self-protection. And then we're going to promote ourselves. And while we do that, we're going to be knocking down everybody else. Humility, and choosing humility, which is love, perfect love, casts out all fear. To choose the humble path. It encourages us to say, where am I going to get this audacious type of love that goes against the grain, goes against how people even in my inner circle think. It goes against the way community thinks. It goes against the way, the political atmosphere or my workplace atmosphere or my home atmosphere. I have to stop. And that's, again, why I love this, because this is the kind of thing that my mind thinks about. And when I coach others, I'm often thinking of this 0 to 10 scale. This humble scale is a very fine line. Yes, Suzanne, oh my goodness, Suzanne, yes, right here is a place of surrender. But people who are afraid, which is here or here, dare not surrender. And then you're saying, what am I surrendering to? Am I surrendering to my own understanding? I'm surrendering to my own enoughness. That's why we can't do this on our own. That's why it's impossible. It's impossible to have this, this fantasy of this world peace because of us as a human. We don't have what it takes. Because as you see, if you go to abundantlymen.org and you see this document, it'll explain it better than I'm going to do here. But love and perfect love is a fine line, and it has to be a conscious choice. And we have to shut down high levels of pride, which are on both sides. But 0 to 4, that's false humility. I'm going to dim my light. I'm going to go into hiding. I'm not going to do some work that needs to be done because I'm so afraid of what other people think. And then on this side, and this can also come off prideful. Have you ever seen that before, where someone walks into a room and you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to say a woman. That woman is so arrogant. She's so prideful. Like, she's not even kind. She's not even talking to anybody. But deep down inside, she feels so worthless. She could be the most beautiful person, and she seems so standoffish. But inside, she's fractured. And she's intimidated by you as much as you're intimidated by her. And then again, you got this little battle in this gathering. It happens so fast. It happens on social media. It happens when we show up in the world, in our workplace or in commerce, like just in our business or in our town, doing errands. And then on the flip side, you have someone who's so arrogant, who bulldozes his or her way through the room. I am here. You will see me. Now, there's no saying if the person has an excessive sense of confidence or if the person has so much low self-esteem deep down inside that he or she doesn't feel that there's this deep worth, that it's going to come out in an egregious, bold, bulldozing kind of way. But here's the reality, that in the middle, I don't need to figure that out because I am whole. I have an abundant mindset. So if I come into contact with conflict on either side, I know where I stand. I have confidence. I have a perfect amount of pride in myself and what I know that's not attached to anything of this world. And so I am a confident, whole, abundant person where I know we're only the one place I get my worth. So I don't take part in conflict at a deep level outside of that. And I understand this person's humanness, who is in hiding and who it comes off rude because of, this person's heart, which we don't really know each and every individual's heart. We don't. We see their behavior, we see and hear their words, but deep down inside, the motivation, we don't know. So guess what? We still get to choose. So no matter what's going on outside of that narrow path of humility, I get to still choose humanity and humbleness and love and grace and mercy for myself and for others. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Ariel. Hi, Suzanne. So I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to pause for a minute and I would love to hear from you. How is this impacting you right now? What is the spirit inside of you saying? I just want to know what you're grasping onto. This is coming from 1 Corinthians. This is my quiet time, just really doing a deep dive in this depth of understanding of what love is, so that I can love others well. And I'm going to do a future post of the other. What if the other is your enemy? What if the other is a person you're in direct conflict with? What would that look like? How does love come across no matter who the other is? But for right now, I am choosing to be open every single morning. What I'm sharing with you now, I'm choosing to be open every single day. And it looks a little bit different every day, but I commit to receiving before entering into the day. You can't give what you don't possess, what you don't first have. So if the source of love is self-love, which is pride, like excessive self-love, excessive self-interest, excessive listen, I know how to do this. It could be parenting, it could be business, it could be just friendship. This is what I know. This is rightness. I'm going to impose this on you. Now take it or leave it. And it can also come out as hiding. And I am going to, so that exaggerated sense of self, let me back up, sorry. If it only comes from this exaggerated sense of self, well, then I'm the only one filling myself up. Or like-minded people that will fill me up. And we're all just patting each other on the back. But it doesn't give out love. I listened to Dr. Mackie, Tim Mackie. He's a pastor. If you look him up, and he did a great sermon on 1 Corinthians 13 of what love isn't. Something, I think it's titled something, and I'll put it on here, the black hole. So it makes me think about a black hole, that it just consumes. So if we have such excessive pride and excessive confidence, it consumes people around them. And then on the flip side, like a black hole. And then on the flip side, and remember, I'm visualizing, here's humility, here's excessive pride, arrogance. This is like a black hole. When you're interacting with people like this and they only get love from themselves or people who think like them, and they're scared to death to step out of any other space than just how people think of, like them, it's like a black hole, and it just absorbs, it sucks you in. Yes, it's draining. It is not life-giving. Now, false humility, on the flip side, isn't life-giving either. These people shine their light so brightly that they blind people with their arrogance and their narcissism. On the flip side of humility, which is still pride, on the complete opposite side, this false humility, the people dim their light. And that isn't life-giving either. I'm afraid of what other people are going to think. I'm in self-protection mode. I don't want to be too bright for others, for whatever worry-based reason. So it's still, they don't know their worth. They don't believe it because of life circumstances have dictated their worth. Rather than in the narrow path of love and humility, their worth comes from above. It does not come from anything in this world. And so back to false humility, which again, you can get this on my website at abundantlyme.org. I just wanted to share my brain with you, so you're welcome to it. So on this side, you dim your light, you hide, you don't show up bold in the world, you're afraid, you have a low self-confidence. And so when it comes to bragging, when it comes to boastfulness, it doesn't look as obvious as on the flip side with pride, with excessive sense of pride, but there's still these quiet types of bragging that try to pull people in, get those compliments, kind of you're fishing for compliments. Maybe you're sharing a lot, an excessive amount of pain points, of things that are not going well, so that you are pulling in someone else's light. You are trying to possibly get from something that that you should be getting from a source that is greater than any other person. And so both people can feel it still comes off as self-absorbing and absorbing others. So I just would love to look back at, so Sue, you're talking about like also diving into what love is. Okay, great. Yeah, that's a lot of our Abundance Academy language, isn't it? Yes, I appreciate that. And then I see someone else talking about false humility. Perfect. Yes, because if you dim your light and you stay, so I'm going to use the exact words. I fall into the chart of false humility. So not a 5, like right in the middle where that's love. I've received love. I am love. I can give out love. I fall into the category of false humility because fear and past trauma, I'm there with you. I hear you. Trying to stay under the radar. And that is a lie. I mean, that is a lie that our ego, that the pridefulness of our ego keeps us preserved, but then we're not loving. And I've been there with you plenty of times with trauma, making us believe in what is called a scarcity mindset rather than the humility, abundance mindset where perfect love flows. So that's beautiful. Thank you for just sharing that with me for a moment. And then I see some of you also talking about compliments. And compliments are like, where does that fall? Where you can think you're being humble and you're complimenting others, but possibly what you're doing is you're fishing for your own compliment. I saw this on that website that was so thorough when it came to boasting and these things that we do in society and we can get wrapped up into. And it doesn't matter what part of pride, false humility, or excessive pridefulness, arrogance, this lesspenguiny.com. I couldn't find it this morning, but it was so thorough and so wonderful. And it taught me, and it had me really reflect on how am I showing up? What words am I using? Am I fishing for a compliment? Am I doing a humble brag? So it's like, oh, well, and then you kind of diss yourself to then name one quality. It's just so cool. He names so much about what we see, what we accidentally or purposely do in society. I thought it was really, really terrific. Again, I'll post it in the comments after I shut this down. So what else does anyone have to say before I close this up? Again, I forgot to put the website on here, but I will, so that you can go to this and you can kind of keep up with the flow of my thinking in this quick post here that I'm doing. So let's see, what else does anyone have to say before I say goodbye? Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, wasn't that powerful? Okay, yeah. So some people are saying that comment that I said about narcissism, which is high levels of arrogance. And we could see narcissism as people who are so arrogant. It's all about them. If you dare, come into their space, they're going to project so much on you that you're the crazy one or you're the one. It's kind of called gaslighting. I'm going off grid for a moment. But when someone mentioned to me this book that I'm reading, had stated that narcissism, this pridefulness, is an excessive way of I need to stop for a minute. That narcissists cannot process shame. I love how some of you also found that. I love how some of you had pulled on. Sorry, I saw someone else's comment, so I'm losing my thought. So whenever we think of fear, guilt, shame, and those are our motivators, and we don't know that we're motivated by fear, guilt, and shame, that's when we fall here and here, and not in humility. There's very little to no place for fear, guilt, and shame to be a motivator. It doesn't mean that fear, guilt, and shame isn't present in a humble person. It's just that person knows what to do. That person knows, again, to go vertically and inwardly the power of God. God, the Trinity, is everywhere. He's omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. Why? This is why I'm diving into love. Because we are the church. We are the temple. We hold God within us as people who say, hey, I'm following you, Jesus. Okay, great. I'm in it with you. So you can have fear, guilt, and shame for a hot second. Sometimes those are good indicators to stop doing what you were doing. But a person who's humble, love that's humble, when someone says something to me as a corrective measure, I'm not going to fly off the handle. I'm going to be able to receive it as a loving statement, and I'm going to be able to process. I feel like, oh my gosh, that made me nervous, or that made me fearful, or that brought on a level of shame for a minute, or that made me feel guilty for a minute. And then a humble person can process it, to then say, okay, that was love, man. That was love speaking right to me. Now I can say, wow, because of that feedback, because of that loving interaction that stung for a minute, a humble person can then not only give love, but a brighter, more corrected, perfect love for that moment. But if you're on either end of the scale and someone has a word for you, or quite frankly, just, I'll stay in this. If someone has a word for you, someone has a correction for you, it's not going to come off arrogant and boastful, your response. Or excuse me, on that end, it is going to come off. Either I'm going to go into hiding more. If someone responds that way, I'm going to go into hiding more. Or I'm going to come out with teeth and I'm going to be aggressive and I'm going to make you feel like garbage because you just said that. So that's one example of how to process some of this, where all this whole message is to say, if I read in scripture that love does not boast, love is not proud, and it doesn't dishonor others, how do we not stop and recalibrate and just really think, which is why I made this document a scale, because I can feel confident in one of these areas, but in this dimension of my life where I don't feel as confident and my vulnerability level is higher, all of a sudden I come up, it could be my parenting. And in all other areas of my life, I'm responding from a place of love, but maybe in a parent, when I put the hat of a parent on and I'm interacting that way, then all of a sudden I'm triggered and I come off very arrogant. It's my way or the highway. This is how I want it done, and I want it done now. And that is hurtful. That doesn't honor my child. But it can happen so fast. So the same person, me, who is out in community and is like, oh, I'll give you grace. I received grace. Grace is going to come through me. No problem. So, hey, I can be that humble, that person that can give and can take and can handle the conflict of this world. But then as soon as I get to work and my boss says something, or as soon as I come home and my husband says something. So it's an ongoing, all this does is encourage us. This is a scale 0 to 10. All this does is encourages us to be more conscientious, to be more self-aware. And don't be afraid of saying self-aware. I'm not talking totally disconnected from the heavenly realm. I'm talking about if you don't have this perfect blend, if I don't have this perfect blend of self-awareness and Holy Spirit awareness, then if I only have self-awareness, that's still kind of prideful. But if I allow a divine nature, if I allow God, the entire Trinity in, and the awareness is increased, then I can process, and then I can show up loving. I can be that person who is humble. I can be that person who doesn't boast on social media to feel better about myself or to project something into the world. And that was the definition of boasting, to personally impose what you believe to be status elevating thoughts on others. So you're basically managing others' thoughts of how they view you. And so if it's coming across boastful, if we're not stopping and paying attention, we don't realize that what we post, what we say, how we respond, how we show up in the world, we don't realize that it is boastful, that it is arrogant, and that, quite frankly, it is harming others. So to pull this all in, our hearts are mourning. I hope they are. They're mourning for what's going on in the Ukraine. But I also want to pull us back and say, in our own home, in our own community, when we are turned off, when we are not paying attention to the conflict in our own heart, we are battling, we are at war with each other. And I'm not at all comparing the two, and I'm not diminishing a a war, a legit war that Russia has put onto the Ukraine through these airstrikes. But from my depths of my heart, what I'm saying is, what if we saw our humanness and our interaction as the same level of seriousness? That it's like an airstrike or a ground, it doesn't matter, but it's striking at the heart of someone's humanity. Russia doesn't have the right to do that. I don't have the right to do that to one of my sons, or to my husband, or to a friend, or to social media land. What if we took it with that much severity, it being how we show up, the words we use? Check in with our being, our character, our disposition. Are we more arrogant than humble? Is there more pride of our ego and self-protection than than paying attention to the other person, to the other? And not just the other that's our BFF, the other human. The other human. So, yes, paying attention. Thank you for that. I'm just trying to honor timing here. So, yeah. There's a couple different angles to look at this. The person who, just us, we are only in control of ourselves, right? So I can have some clarity in this topic if I just focus on me, increase my self-awareness, increase the awareness of the Holy Spirit within me to empower me to be love, where maybe my humanness, my flesh, my ego, that pride that is always there, the flesh and the soul, the spirit will be in that internal conflict. That's why I encourage, in what I do with people, I encourage to increase self-awareness, as well as the awareness of the power, the divine power that's within you, to be able to show up in the world loving, no matter what, and even if, and to respond no matter what, and even if, loving. That's what this is all about. Another way to look at it is the other people and how they respond, how life happens to us, the airstrikes against us. This immediately, as I just said this download, this memory of this morning when I was looking at what's going on in the Ukraine, and this picture of this community. It's freezing there. They're kneeling on this concrete area. It looks like an open park area. And the people of the Ukraine are kneeling and praying. They have no control over what the other is doing. Are you listening into this? They have no control. Their humanness cannot stop the war that's going on outside of them. The attacks on their homes, on their community. They can't control it. And what they're choosing to do, this image, this is so beautiful. Thank you, God, for this image at this moment. What they're choosing to do is pray. That's the influence they have over their surroundings, over what's going on outside of them. Isn't it a beautiful way of saying, you know what? I can't control what's going on outside of me. I can control the inner war, the world that's going on inside of me. I can do some work about that, but I can't I have no control. Ukrainians, looking at this picture of them, Ukrainians, looking at this picture of them sitting, kneeling on this concrete, cold concrete in these conditions. And they're choosing to receive love, and they're choosing to give love. And I wonder, could they also be praying for Putin? Could they be praying for their enemy? Now that isn't control, but that is a level of influence that is ridiculous to the patterns of this world. So today is the day that I was able to share this message, and I just love how these messages are for a time such as this. Now, as always, my mind goes in 70 different directions, so I hope there was some clarity. And as I feel like if I was all over the place with how excited I was to do a deep dive in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 through 5, where love does not boast, it is not proud, and it does not dishonor others. I think I'm going to come back around to this part about the other, dishonoring others, how we can be loving, like that final example, how we can stand firm in what we believe in and not dishonor the other person. I think there's something there that we need to process. I believe in my time and just working with people, seeing what's posted on social media, I think we definitely could benefit from stopping and thinking about that. So if it was a little unclear, I have this chart, this 0 to 10 chart, humility being the place of love and surrender. I have this chart on my website, abundantlymee.org. I'd love for you to have it. It'll be immediately given to you as soon as you just put in your name and email, and I'll get it to you. So I hope that this blesses you if what I just shared was like a little bit all over the place. But that was just, some thoughts I have from my notes, just spending time with God in the morning. There's no necessarily ritual or my time with the Lord has to look or sound or feel a certain way. I do love my scripture. I do love my journal time, but I also love just being in the presence of love, being in the presence of the perfection of God, God the Father, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit that is within us to give us this uncanny, this unfathomable power within us to love, even if there's war inside and outside of us. So I would love for you to keep messaging, because I come back as often as possible to these messages just to see what other people have contributed. Sometimes you guys add great verses or just thoughts. And then, of course, feel free to connect with me offline. And I really do appreciate that. Good to catch you live too, Angeline. Okay, I know these are end up being about an hour long. I'm always thinking to myself, like, I need to make these like 15 minutes, but that's just not where the Lord has me. So if you guys are able to grab, a moment of this or the entire thing, I'm grateful, because all I'm trying to do is hold space to encourage us to be more self-aware, to be aware that there is a presence, a divine presence that supersedes all what we see here on this short time. We have breath in our lungs, and we're living in this time. We don't know what tomorrow brings. We do not know what tomorrow brings. So right now, while we have breath in our lungs and we're a miracle. Right now is a miracle. Why? Why get wrapped up in anything but just trying to figure out how we can be more loving, and just to receive that love every single day, to get that fill up so that we can be more loving. So that's all I care about. That's all I'm at. That's when I pop on here, that's all that matters to me, is the other, is you, whoever you are. All right, I'm going to let you go. Love you all very much. Thanks for commenting. Keep the comments going. I'll, add the links right now. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.